Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and to our brand new study. We're starting a brand new study here. We're going to take a look at Teilhard de Chardin and his book, The Phenomenon of Man, first published in French in 1955. It is Teilhard de Chardin's masterpiece, and before we get into the bulk of the text, we're going to take a look at his preface essay, which is an essay on seeing, pages 31 to 41. And in that preface, he gives us his philosophical position. Teilhard de Chardin was a Catholic Christian philosopher in France, while G.W. Hegel was a Christian philosopher in Germany. They both wrote approximately during the same time. They both wrote phenomenology. So I'm looking forward to this. The preface gives us basically an overview of his Christian philosophy, which will guide us as we go through the manuscript. This is his seminal work. This is his most highly regarded and most highly recognized work, The Phenomenon of Man. And we're looking at a Harper perennial reprint dated 2002. But originally it was published in French in 1955. This is a Harper Publishing in New York, a perennial reprint in English. Let's go to block 1 and we'll get started on this essay on seeing. The task of humanity is to reach fuller being. Fuller being when man is placed in the framework of phenomenon. The whole of life lies in the verb seeing. Our goal is fuller being through union. Union increases through the vision of consciousness, because the cosmos always presents something more to be seen. The cosmos always unfolds something of greater depth, something of deeper meaning, all the time. So block 1, note 2, we're looking at fuller being through the vision of consciousness. Human history is the elaboration of vision within the cosmos. The vision of seeing of the self who perishes is the very gift of existence. And this defines man's condition. We are blessed to know, and we have a twofold role in the process, says Teilhard de Chardin. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. So block 1, note 3, fuller being and man's twofold role. First, we are to impose the self or posit the self, and that contributes the effective seeing. It's the key to the universe. It is both subjective and objective. Subjective seeing is the scientific observing of phenomena in themselves. Objective seeing is transformative seeing, where subject and object mutually transform each other. Then the self reaches a point of vantage where things radiate their essence. Then the subjective viewpoint coincides with the distributed and ordered objectivity. We realize the gift of seeing at that point, when subjectivity and objectivity come together in a union through the vision of consciousness. When consciousness can unite subjectivity and objectivity, we reach spiritual seeing. And this is phenomenology. I mean, this reads exactly as what it is intended to be, a phenomenology of man. Let's go to block 2. We'll take a look at the unifying of the converging lines of our existence. That is our task. The converging lines of existence. These lines are both visual and structural. The self is to bring them to the grand ganglion point, a point of visual focus where the categories of existence are discovered. This becomes the measure of the struggles of the mind, both individual mind and intersubjective mind, okay? Individual mind and the developing intersubjective mind. So the work of block 2, note 2, the work of unifying the converging lines or categories, and we are told that there are 7 major categories which build upon each other. There is a spatial immensity, where we examine the orbits of the objects around us. There's a sense of depth. We develop a condensed sense of the significant past. There's a sense of quantity, especially those elements that affect change that we recognize. A sense of proportion. We recognize the scale and the dimension of existence. A sense of quality, where we identify the stages of growth in existence. A sense of movement, recognizing that breaking out of the manifestation of the new. And then finally, the final step is a sense of the organic whole. We form a model of the unity of diversity. We discover the organic curve of the phenomenon of man. And it's a pattern, it's a triad, it's a trinity. I love that. Hegel had a phenomenology as a trinity. Teilhard de Chardin has a phenomenology as a trinity. We go from pre-life through life to thought. That is the organic curve of existence which asks for the participation of the phenomenon of man. We are to participate in that triune, universal development of human consciousness at an individual level and at a organic, holistic, intersubjective level. Let's go to block 3. We look at how does the world become true for us? The 3 stages of the objective world. First, we have the cosmos before the dawn of life. Second, we have the Paleozoic era, which is the beginning of plant and animal life. And then we have the third, the advanced era of thought, where evolution has placed us, where visions of the future emerge. Now, the 3 corresponding subjective stages that correspond to that objectivity are as follows. First, we have man within the scope of science. Second, man within the illuminating realm of knowing. And third, man within the extended experience of acquiring the thoughtful, coherent whole of existence. So it is a triad that he proposes, and it's a triad of pre-life, then life, and then the higher level of existence, the thought of human consciousness. And our thought of human consciousness is the unifying principle that unites all of these converging lines that are represented by the major categories, 7 major categories. So if you go to block 2, note 2, those categories that make up the converging lines are spatial immensity, sense of depth, sense of quantity, sense of proportion, sense of quality, sense of movement, sense of the organic whole. And those 7 categories will build one on the other. Spatial immensity will eventually unfold into a sense of depth. Sense of quantity will unfold eventually as a sense of proportion. Then you have the quality and the movement of the stages of growth, where the new becomes manifested, and then we bring that all together into a coherent, holistic model, which brings all of those converging lines to an omega point, to a fulfilled unification as an omega point. But just like Hegel, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin gives us his philosophy right at the beginning of the manuscript, so that we have this framework within which to examine the data that he will give us throughout his manuscript. In a way, this is his conclusive summary that is given to us as a preface to prepare us ahead of time for the greater detail of working through this triad, the triad of pre-life, life, and the thought of human consciousness. It's all about the developing growth of an intersubjectivity of human consciousness that is always moving toward greater complexity, but at the same time, a unification of that greater complexity to, at some point, to reach a mature omega point. The very, very powerful first essay here by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He wrote this manuscript in 1955 in French. Later it was translated into English. We are examining the Harper publication as a reprint in 2002, as a reprint of the English translation. But our task, the task of every human being, is to reach a level of fuller being through a consciousness that can perceive and unite the converging lines of our existence, and to arrange them under the 7 major categories that will all have their own subsystems, and those subsystems will be concepts. So we'll have a subsystem of concepts under the major categories, and we work that toward a unification, a converging, uniting omega point. This is just kind of to whet our appetite. It's an essay on seeing that Pierre Teilhard de Chardin places at the very preface of the manuscript to kind of give us a heads up on, this is my philosophical thought. Here are my presuppositions. Here are my philosophical presuppositions. Remember, he is a Christian philosopher, just like Hegel. He's more of a Christian philosopher than he is a theologian. Obviously, he's still a theologian, but primarily a Christian philosopher who is going to speak to us in philosophical concepts and philosophical categories. He's the French version of the German Hegel. about the same time. They both were writing at about the same time. And Pierre Teilhard de Chardin emerged with his masterpiece in mid-20th century, 1955. And we're going to get into this. I'm excited about it. This is my first time to really dig into Pierre Teilhard de Chardin with any depth of learning. So I'm really looking forward to it. This gets us started. This is the opening essay where he does clearly outline his presuppositions. So as a recap, to close out, I think we'll go back to block 2, where we look at note 1, the converging lines of existence. These lines are both visual and structural. The self is to bring them to the ganglion point, a point of visual focus, where the categories of existence are discovered and where we develop our measure of the struggles of human consciousness. How will human consciousness integrate these categories into a coherent, holistic, organic whole? And then block 2, note 2, we are given the categories. He gives us the categories. Now, obviously, we will develop them ourselves. These aren't rigid by any means. They are dynamic, and they are to be interpreted by every individual, and every individual contributes to the holistic, intersubjective consciousness. But we will work through spatial immensity, sense of depth, sense of quantity, a sense of proportion, a sense of quality, a sense of movement, to finally reach a sense of the organic whole, where we form a model of the unity of diversity and organize these categories and their conceptual subsystems. We'll do this all through the organic curve of the phenomenon of man, which is a triad of pre-life, then thought. Or if you go to block 3, note 1, life before the dawn of life. 2, the Paleozoic era, the beginning of plant and animal life. And then 3rd, we move into that advanced era of thought, where evolution has placed us, where the visions of the future emerge in human consciousness. Where the visions of the future emerge in human consciousness at an individual level and at a level of intersubjective dialogue. All of that plays a role. So I appreciate him giving us this preface essay on seeing, which more or less summarizes and encapsulates Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's philosophy, Christian philosophy. And this will get us started. In the next lesson, we will jump into the meat of the manuscript block. Note, it'll begin with the pre-life phase, and we will begin that teaching in our next lesson.